Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is our guest. Let's go on the record. 18 months into the job, she has set a progressive course for the city. High expectations, big challenges. Where do things stand right now? The mayor is here to talk about it.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
And welcome everybody to OTR. I'm Ben Cimino, along with News Center 5's political reporter Sharman Sacchetti. Ed Harding's off this Sunday morning. With us this morning, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. Mayor, thank you for being here.
Nice to be with you.
Thanks for being here. I want to start with the resignation of U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins. She's a prominent figure in Boston politics. You had supported her. She was brought down after 2 federal reports that documented what they called an extraordinary abuse of power: free Celtics tickets, interfering in election, lying under oath. First of all, I want to ask, do you condemn these actions as laid out in these reports now that you've had a chance to see them?
Yeah, I've gone through the reports, and as public officials, we must be subject to the highest standards of accountability to ensure that there's trust in the larger system, and particularly when it comes to the impartiality of our prosecutorial system and the larger criminal justice system. Those standards are really important. The ethics process and investigation showed some very serious breaches, and I agree with her decision to step down.
Do you think it makes it tougher on people like you to do your job? Because and this is what the special counsel said, this threatens to erode the public trust.
We had a process in place for an investigation, and that has led to information coming out. And so in some ways, I think that process functioned. And
so you don't think people should lose faith?
No.
In government officials, when they see this kind of thing, that's what happens.
We're in a really a time of such great need out in community, and everything that the city of Boston is doing across city, state, federal government is really directed to try to deliver results. You don't have to believe theoretically. Look to the work that's happening. I was really excited that Boston was named on a list of top places to live, and we're delivering on our housing goals in many other places. And so we need to. It's a two-way conversation that has to always continue with residents.
I've got to ask about the broader fallout here. You were a member of the Boston City Council for 10 years. You were council president. As you know, U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins is accused of trying to help City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo in his race to become the Suffolk County DA. There are calls out there for him to resign. Should he resign?
There was one person that was the subject of an investigation in this case, so we don't have the full story, but I will say that it is inappropriate for any attempts to try to use connections to the Department of Justice or another government entity to try to influence investigations about a political opponent. We don't have all of the information, but
the text messages were pretty clear in the report.
We do know that if the report is true, she offered her assistance to him and he accepted it. So again, should he resign?
There's an election in 5 months in the city of Boston. We need to finish the redistricting maps as quickly as possible to make sure that that can happen. But I think it's up to the voters of the district. Elected officials are held accountable at the ballot.
All right, I want to talk about housing. This is obviously a very big topic. Your rent control proposal, it's made it to Beacon Hill, but so far not much traction at the State House. During your State of the City address, you did offer free city land to developers willing to build affordable housing units. Have you had anyone take you up on that offer?
Housing is the top challenge across every part of our city. I would say even across our Commonwealth. People are getting priced out, and we have to do everything possible right now. So we're trying to create more housing. We're trying to stabilize people in their homes. We're trying to boost home ownership and help people who are renting become homeowners with supports. And we're looking at every inch of city land. So out of the 150 lots, the first, I think it's about 27 of them, bids will come back in June. We will get the chance to review those and see the visions that have been presented by local community members and developers who have a vision for that neighborhood. And we will keep putting batches of these out so we can get them into housing for families as quickly as possible.
Are we moving fast enough as a state? I mean, it certainly doesn't feel like it. Prices are still through the roof. Interest rates are very high. I know the city does have a number of innovative programs like One Plus Boston out there to try to get folks who converted from renting to buying. But are we building enough new housing?
No, we are not. And again, it's how do we try to spark proposals and get the builders going in partnership with communities, but also a hard look at what the processes are and could we speed those up. I'd signed an executive order last year to cut in half the amount of time that it takes affordable housing proposals to get review and to streamline some of the way that departments coordinate on that. We're seeing some real results there. Every possible angle, the zoning code, our internal processes, development approvals, and how we work with community, that needs to be aligned to getting more people into homes so that prices can come down.
All right, Governor Healy has added a housing secretary to her cabinet. This is a new position. Former Worcester City Manager Ed Augustus. Have you been able to meet with him or speak with him about what you'd like to see in Boston?
I haven't had the chance yet, but welcome the opportunity, and I'm excited that there's a point of focus there. We've had a lot of success and great partnership with the various departments, state officials already in place there, and we work hand in hand with them on everything from trying to tackle and address homelessness all the way up to what does it look like to think about zoning collectively across the state. Boston is doing everything that we can, but we need to understand the regional impacts and do it in a coordinated way.
All right, your appointment of Mary Skipper as school superintendent helps stop that state push to take over the city system. She wraps up her first year next month. How's she doing? Safety obviously remains a critical concern across the city and in schools everywhere. The superintendent and the police commissioner, Michael Cox, agree that there needs to be kind of a more coordinated relationship between law enforcement and the schools. You're a BPS mom. Do you think police need to have a presence in school buildings? And again, I'll also ask you, how's Mary Skipper doing?
Yeah, the superintendent is fantastic. We are so lucky as a city that she was willing to come back. She knows every corner of the district and has such a strong vision, tackling academics, making sure we're focusing on the buildings that our young people need, the support services, the extracurriculars, pulling in partnerships. I will say on the school police issue, sometimes this is a place where there's a little bit of misinformation about what the situation has been in the past. It has been, I don't know how many decades, if ever, there were police officers with armed police officers stationed inside schools in Boston. That has just simply not been the case. We have had a school safety force for a long, long time. They have been present and continue to be present in our schools as adults who are staff members and well-trained and focused on security and safety in the schools. We continue to have that as a top priority.
There are school security teams in there that have replaced them, right?
So,
or is that not true?
So what happened was previously, it was called the School Police Force, and they did not carry weapons. They had the ability to coordinate with Boston Police, which was a separate function, a separate department, and also make arrests. However, since the 2020 state law reform went into effect around criminal justice reform, the requirements to even have arrest powers changed significantly. So the same individuals in many cases are still in our school buildings. They no longer carry handcuffs and have arrest powers, but they know the students. The best way to ensure safety in a school setting is for trusted relationships with adults. We're making we have been surveying our family members, and we know some of the concerns that have come up, but the numbers also show that
polls show that 2/3 of BPS parents are worried about children's safety.
Is absolutely important
in schools.
This poll also shows that the vast majority, an even higher number of families, were satisfied and are happy with the direction that the Boston Public Schools are going. We need to keep building on that, and that includes pulling in opportunities for young people across every part of our city.
All right, so we know summer is nearly here, and that can bring with it an increase in crime. We have seen more of Commissioner Cox since his visit to OTR. What do you want to see specifically from the police over the next 3 or 4 months?
The commissioner is really a national leader. He was the sole police chief from this area invited down to testify in D.C. recently as part of an examination of what is going well and what needs to be improved in urban safety. And his approach has been community policing first and foremost. Make sure our officers are connected to community in every possible way. But safety, especially safety in the summer, is Boston Police plays an important role, but just a small role in that. It is just as much about our community centers being open later for young people to have safe spaces, activity and block parties and strong communities in general, safe, healthy communities. It is all interconnected and not just the role of the Boston Police Department.
Quickly, though, before we go to break, Sherelle Parker, who just won the Democratic primary in Philadelphia to likely will become the next mayor of that city, said everything's on the table when it comes to dealing with gun violence, including potentially bringing back what she referred to as constitutional stop and frisk. A lot of big cities are dealing with this issue. Is there anything going down that avenue, a stop and frisk policy that you'd like to see here in Boston? Should police be more active in preventing crime?
We have a data-informed, community-driven approach. It is about establishing trusting relationships and partnerships with community as the best way to ensure safe communities. We've actually done a lot of deep work in analyzing our numbers, looking to best practices, and it is a very, very small number of locations in Boston. Something like 5% of street segments account for 75% of shootings, and so we're really going to have a targeted approach in working with community, making investments, creating opportunity with Boston Police as an important partner in that.
All right.